Hey everybody, James Nutter here from I Am Wealth. Did you know that 3 of every 4 American families say money is their number one household stress? That means 3 of every 4 of your friends say money is their number one household stress. I too have felt it. I imagine you have felt it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here right now. So that's why we created the I Am Masterclass, a safe space for you to learn with your friends and families how to take control of your money without making critical mistakes. And so thank you so much for being here. And please visit us at iamwealth.com. We offer free financial wellness diagnostics, have a bunch of great resources on there for you. And without further ado, let's jump into the masterclass.
Well, hello and welcome to everybody. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you. And on this very Valentine's Day, of course, there's a zillion other places that you could be. So just thank you for investing back into yourself and you and those that you love most, better future together. No place that Jeff and I would rather be. Hopefully you guys feel the same, and we'll do our best to spread some love on this very Valentine's Day. And thank you also for just, once again, just investing your precious time with us. There's obviously, once again, a zillion other places you could be. So just introducing myself, my name is James Nutter. I'm a partner and financial planner at I Am Wealth. And then we also have Jeff sporting some awesome new headphones. I haven't seen those things before. Those look fantastic. And Jeff and I always joke, as being formerly business partners in our own private practice, that we're kind of in a long-term committed marriage to each other. We have to have strong communication. We have to have candor with each other. So not only are we committed to our, partners in life, but also we're committed as business partners as well. And it feel like a long-term marriage at times. And a little bit on Jeff. Jeff founded our company with a mission to bring financial wellness to physicians and their families. And Jeff's wife, Michaela, is currently in medical school. So he's kind of going through it with all of you. The journey, of course, all of you are probably practicing by now. And he's also going through currently, as we speak, a book called The Medical Marriage. And it's all about sustaining healthy relationships for physicians and their families. That has nothing to do with us and I Am Wealth, but Jeff would definitely recommend. I haven't read it yet, but I'm not in the medical marriage. Jeff would recommend, checking it out. It's a great, there it is right there.
Great book. Great
Cool.
book. Highly recommend. Lots of cool exercises in there. And yeah, I think it's fantastic. Would definitely recommend it to anybody on here.
Love it. Love it. Thank you for sharing. So anyways, who's ready? And let's dive in head first. Let's do the dang thing. And if you're just listening like podcast style on a walk or whatever it might be, great. If you want to turn on your camera and interact and things like that, feel free, but no pressure to do anything. And then if you're watching this on a recording, which will be on YouTube eventually, just thank you for your time. As always, I know you're not here live. Most people listen to it recorded because y'all live and lead busy lives as physicians. So thank you so much. So first and foremost, just some questions to think about. Like, who here has ever felt overwhelmed, uncertain, insecure, lacking freedom as it relates to money? Put my hand up nice and high here. Jeff has his hands up. Maybe you guys with your cameras off also have your hands up. If you're listening on a recording, maybe your hands up in the air. Who here has ever argued with your spouse or partner about money? I'll keep my hand up. More than once? Keep it up. A couple dozen times? I'll keep it up, maybe a little higher. Maybe over 100 times, probably, but who's counting, right? And who here has ever just been like super high on life, had like the best day of your life? Maybe you really helped like a sick patient and brought him back to recovery, and you're feeling good vibes. And all of a sudden, you see your spouse or partner, it's like 8:30 p.m. and the rug was lifted, pun intended, of everything being swept under the rug. And out of nowhere, a money conversation of a hand grenade landed in your lap at 9 p.m. or whatever it might be, and World War III ensued. I've been there before myself. I don't know about you, Jeff, but definitely have been there. And then who has ever just laid awake at night, thinking about money or some type of money argument? Once again, I brought my hand down, but I should have just kept it up the entire time. So me too, Jeff as well. We do this for a living, right? So we understand how unique the challenges are for couples as it relates to money. And just know that you aren't alone in this. So first and foremost, we're just going to start by naming the problem, and from our perspective, why we believe that money conversations are so difficult. First and foremost, I'm sure you saw in the intro, 3 out of every 4 families say money is their number one stressor on the home front in the household, which is crazy. So 3 of every 4 of your friends who are married say that money, or sorry, they don't even have to be married. This is just humans in general stat. say that money is their number one stress. Add to this, of course, I'm sure all of you are familiar with the physician burnout rates of 42% that Medscape reports year after year, typically related to your job, patients, scribe work, taking notes, doing notes at home, those types of things. But money and free time always comes into the conversation. TD Ameritrade did a study that says 41% of divorced Gen Xers, along with 29% of divorced baby boomers, state that the reason their marriages ended was due to financial disagreements, which is very interesting. And then add to this that CNBC did a study that found that 54% of people believe a partner with debt is a reason to consider divorce. I just saw this the other day and that kind of blew me away a little bit. Jeff and I, as business owners, have taken on some business debt. I know a lot of physicians out there listening to this right now, of course, med school loans and things like that. So there's all things to be conscious of and aware of. And, I think what Jeff and I have kind of boiled it down to, and why like the perfect storm of all of those things exist, is there's really not a lot of great money education out there for any of us, especially physicians. But even me, I studied finance and accounting in college, and it was more of which like memorizing formulas versus actually like behaviors as a human. There's a lot of rules of thumb online about how you should live your life as a physician as it relates to your money, like follow some 50, 30, 20 budget rule, or live like a resident, or make sure you do tax loss harvesting, or blah, blah, blah. And we live in a very much now, thanks to the iPhone and social media, Instagram, keeping up with the Joneses economy. So I think all of this together has kind of created this like perfect storm of why we struggle with money. And to add to that, as a society, we don't talk about money. It's taboo. Not even our closest loved ones, our brothers, sisters, parents probably don't even know how much money we make, and we don't talk about it, nor do we want to talk about it, right? So culturally, it's very difficult to have money conversations. Once again, all this combined is why we're here today and why we created the I Am Wealth Masterclass, which is a safe space for physicians and their families to learn about money, and then how to make healthy decisions as families and live more meaningful lives. So we understand y'all lead busy lives, so we'll try to be as efficient as possible with you today. And just a little bit more about us. So at I Am Wealth, we're currently helping 84 physician and affluent families, 71 total physicians and counting, take control of their money and live more meaningful lives. And for all others, like you, if you're here right now and you're not a client, we give away a ton of just free value. Hopefully better than what you find online, just Googling, like, what should I do with my money as a physician? Follow all these rules of thumb, blah, 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 blah. Doing things like this 100% for free. So our aim is to give away more value in this, free masterclass and the things that we do than you could get for some type of like paid money program online or whatever it might be. And this is really for two reasons. One, just to provide real world financial wellness. And two, hopefully, if we give away enough value, hopefully over time, earn your trust. And maybe someday, if we earn your trust enough, you might reach out and say like, hey, what's your community all about? What does it look like to become a member? How do you guys help families take control of their money? And so for everyone here right now, just thank you for your proactivity. And we also offer free financial wellness diagnostics to help you assess the state of your financial health, just to reward your proactivity and say thank you for registering for this and being here right now. So we'll follow up with you about that if you have any interest in that. And then some basic ground rules here is we just commit to no cost for these, as I'm sure you found out. No sales. We can't talk about any products. We're not going to talk about any products. And because of rule 1 and 2, no bull. And I'll let you complete that sentence. Then a quick disclaimer that we have to throw in there is just I Am Wealth does not offer individual financial advice outside of a formal fiduciary consulting agreement. Content discussed in the I Am Masterclass is not and does not represent any financial, tax, and/or legal advice. The intent of the I Am Masterclass is to provide extremely valuable educational content for free. For personal questions, we hope you'll visit iamwealth.com, book a financial wellness diagnostic to see how we can help you and your family take control of your money. And with that being said, I will now pass the baton over to Jeff for some opening remarks before we dive into the 7 steps.
Sounds great. Thanks, James. Great introduction. Yeah, excited to be here. It's actually, James and I have been looking forward to this one for a long time as we started thinking about how can we do something for couples as it relates to just one of the hardest things to do as a couple is talk about money. It was maybe a little over a month ago we decided let's do it on Valentine's Day. So again, thanks so much for all the people that are listening live, and then for people that are going to listen later to the recorded version. We're excited to have the opportunity to just talk about something that's difficult for all of us. So just some opening comments. It just generally speaking, knowing and doing are two very separate things, right? And talking about money with people that we love just happens to be one of the hardest things to do as a couple. So I think what we're trying to do here is just bring some simple, actionable tools to bring healthy conversations to life more consistently. And James and I are in that, we're in that mission collectively with everybody here. So that's what we're here to do today, share some simple, effective tools to make those conversations about money healthier and more productive on the home front. And that being said, I would just express one more important disclaimer that we're not here, James and I are not here to pretend to be relationship experts. Today's more about sharing exercises and tools that we have learned from people far wiser than us. And it's also about the importance of humility, being brave, taking action. James and I have been in this business giving couples financial advice for a long time now, almost 13 years. And I've only been married for 7 months. And I will openly admit that I've learned humility is definitely more important than having all the answers. And I know that I'm just getting started with that, got a lot to learn. And James and I we spend all day, every day coaching people with their money, but we are not immune to this challenge of talking about money and relationships. It's just part of life. And we're here to embrace that with all of you, talk about how to take action as a community. So let's jump in, let's have some fun. Before we talk about solutions or tactics, I think a good place to start would be just debunking some common myths about money. So of course, the issue being the difficulty of talking about money with a loved one. Sometimes one of the things that we try to do to compensate for that is make more money to lessen the pain, right? Okay, we're uncomfortable. Let's just go make more money to overcome this issue. And typically what we've learned here is that more money only intensifies the communication barriers that already exist. So we've really got to get down to the root issue, which is that communication factor. So the other common myth that we see is people go the opposite direction and to just spend less money to lessen the pain. And I think, one of the common areas that we see people struggle with that is in those situations, people can burn out really quickly. I mean, you freeze all of your spending, your discretionary spending on a monthly basis just to improve your financial situation. And that can lead to a pretty disastrous burnout. And the third issue that maybe kind of subconsciously happens, and and we've all been guilty of this, that myself included, but just ignoring money altogether to lessen the pain, right? We have moments when we think maybe it does more harm than good to actually just sit down and talk about money. But I think the issue is just having tools and having a process to follow. And we only fail when we give up, right? But moving forward is important. The biggest hurdle tends to be not having the tools. So let's get down to it. I think the first thing that is a good place to start is just talking about a concept that we call the financial love triangle. This might sound really weird, but it is absolutely a real thing. I'll share my screen just to kind of give a little bit of a visual. And I've got is this, can you see this, James, on your end?
Yeah, you're good.
So, forgive me for just using Microsoft Paint for this, but it's an easy concept. I'll kind of talk about it a little bit right now, and then also we'll make sure that people that have registered for this have access to the actual tool that we use with clients to facilitate this type of exercise. So, if you think about money, right? Everybody has their own relationship with money. And so we just look at 3 sides of this triangle. So myself as an example, spouse 1 in that situation, I grew up developing my own unique relationship with money, my own unique thoughts and concerns and goals and priorities, very specific to me, my personality type, my upbringing, everything. It's a unique experience. And also inside of that, and James is going to cover this later, my own financial love language. And so what types of things when I think about money make me feel safe and good and accomplished, and what types of things make me feel concerned and put into a position where I feel uncomfortable. And so I think what happens, and this is definitely something that I can relate to, is just that when we have such defined relationships as individual people with money, and we couple somebody else's, our partner, when we couple their unique experience and the entire set of things I just was spitting out there about my own relationship with money, they have their own unique experience too. And sometimes they're very different. Sometimes they can be similar in certain aspects, but sometimes they're just polar opposite. And it doesn't mean one relationship is wrong. I think the biggest thing that causes strife in a financial conversation is when one of the spouses feels unseen or unknown, right? And the bottom line is something that we call shared meaning, or a shared relationship with money. We're both partners. In this may be for some people, again, myself included, sometimes we just kind of default into something because we get busy. If we're not making intentional time to talk with our partners about how they relate to money and learning it and using it as an opportunity to love each other, then it very quickly becomes just kind of an unspoken disagreement, but we just kind of move on because it is, of course, a difficult thing to talk about. So the exercise that we like to use, and we'll of course get into it a little bit more, is just awareness building, with looking at really understanding your own relationship with money, really truly seeking to understand how your spouse relates to money, and then working together to develop shared meaning. And I think one of the misconceptions here is that you have to give up your own individual priorities and your own individual feelings and around what's important financially to you as a person, as an individual. It's more so an opportunity to learn about each other's and then come together with something that can help drive you forward as a couple. So just a great exercise. I'll stop sharing and going on and on about that. But I think really it's something that should not be ignored. I think just embracing it. It's not a perfect process in talking about money, and nothing, of course, nothing is. But if we have issues with communication about finances, the problem doesn't go away on its own. So we just encourage everybody to just lean into it. Use the exercise as a way to draw closer to each other. Use money as a tool to actually improve your relationship, rather than let it drive a wedge between you and your partner. So take action with it consistently. And I think one great way to segue into that further would be to just transition over to James for step 1 of the 7 steps.
Yeah, let's jump into the 7 steps. And that made me think of my favorite quote from my favorite philosopher, Will Smith. Money doesn't change people, it merely amplifies what's already there. And I think that's our purpose in doing this, is how can you use your money to amplify what's already there that's most important to you and your spouse. So jumping into the 7 steps now, first and foremost, step 1, and we're just going to be brutally honest, is know thyself. And I want to start with a quote from Joel Osteen that he shared in Success Magazine. And he says, "Our romantic partners usually fulfill only 80% of our needs. Most people, however, focus on the 20% that's missing. Thus, they ultimately become unhappy and unfulfilled. Sadly, many people will leave the relationship to find the 20% in someone else. And what they find is that the new person will also only fill 80% of their needs. They're just different needs and expectations from their last partner. The key is to focus on the 80% that is right, wonderful, and beautiful about your partner and your relationship. And your positive perspective will change how you behave, interact with, and support your partner. Your partner will respond to this more positive behavior in kind, and gratitude can build and deepen your relationships." So I absolutely love that quote. It's definitely changed my perspective on just how I view my existing relationship. And one thing that I would add to that goes in alignment with know thyself is sometimes part of the problem when they leave their partner to go find that 20%, they also bring themselves with. So maybe it's a little bit of like, bringing yourself, right? So jumping into know thyself, it's actually was inscribed on the ancient Greek god Apollo, his tombstone when they buried him. And Socrates, the great ancient philosopher, I'm not going to get too philosophical with all of you, just believed that, knowing thyself is the first step to true wisdom. He believed that the only by knowing oneself can one appreciate what they understand and what they still need to learn. And Aristotle also said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. So, how does this relate to money? Before you can influence anyone else, you must first understand why you are the way you are about money. And really, at the end of the day, you can't necessarily change people. You can inspire them, you can motivate them, you can influence them, but they have to be willing to do the work themselves. So that's why, first and foremost, I would say know thyself and understand why you are the way you are about money. And then lead by example, show up. You've heard of this a zillion times, but it's one of the biggest lacking principles of leadership is just leading by example versus trying to change people and finger point, right? So the best way to do this is just by looking in the mirror and asking yourself awesome questions to understand why you are the way you are about your money. So first and foremost, why am I the way I am about money? What things about money trigger me? We all have underlying triggers, and it could be as simple as seeing an Amazon package on your front doorstep that your spouse ordered when you told that individual to stop spending money. What about my childhood has shaped my views about money, right? We all grew up in all, like a good majority of how we view the world was conditioned into us as childhood. Politics, religion, money, work ethic, what type of work, etc. A lot of that came from how we were raised, right? So one example, my grandma Angie, who grew up in the Great Depression, to this day she's doing excellent financially. And we were at Christmas together, and she was giving out all of us grandkids a little bit of money, and she couldn't believe that she was giving us all like $100. My dad and uncle literally had to like talk her into it. So she still has like a Great Depression mindset, and she's doing extremely well financially from the 1930s, 1940s. So maybe you have those types of views that were passed down in your family for generations, right? So how did I grow up? Was I lower class, middle class, upper class? How does that affect my current views around money? So it starts with you and it ends with you. And I would challenge all of you to just take personal responsibility in your life. And I think it's the most liberating thing that you can possibly do in your life is that if you aren't happy with your bank balance, if you aren't happy with your waistline, if you aren't happy with your marriage, if you aren't happy with the work that you're doing, it's 100% ownership on you. And I know there's extreme circumstances, like bad things happen to people, people get cancer, extreme circumstances happen. But how many times have you heard the story of like the paraplegic who went through PT and all of a sudden was walking again and then like ran a marathon, right? So responsibility simply means it's your ability to respond to what life happens to you and just take full, like if you aren't where you want to be, taking 100% ownership versus, blaming the government versus blaming your spouse and partner. So no finger pointing, like it's all on you. And that is the most liberating thing I've ever learned in my entire life is just taking ownership of your choices that you make every day, because the choices that you make every day will lead to your outcomes in life. So some self-assessment questions to think about here and knowing thyself and taking responsibility is, do I take 100% responsibility for all my outcomes in life? If not, how can I proactively change? Do I blame others for my circumstances in life? Like, am I watching Fox News and finger pointing at the government why I didn't keep as much money and I had to pay more in taxes last year? Am I proactively working on whole life success for myself? I'd encourage all of you to Google the Wheel of Life. There's 8 different spokes and you can take a quiz. And a lot of us, if you're anything like me, the first couple times you do it, I typically do it quarterly, you'll find that there's some type of imbalance. Like some quarters I might be going all in on work and maybe neglect, my partner, Steph, and she doesn't give as much attention. So that assessment really can show you where there's some vulnerabilities in your life and where you can work. And then from there, I would just encourage everybody, take time before finger pointing and trying to change anybody else to work on yourself first. It's the best thing you can possibly do in your life. So transitioning now in away from knowing thyself, we'll move into step 2. And that's just understanding money love languages. So I'm sure many of you out there have heard of the 5 love languages. And don't worry, Jeff and I are not here today to talk to you about your personal love languages or anything like that. But there's a group called the Gottman Institute, and they put together a piece called The Meaning of Money. And what does money mean to you? So this is an incredible exercise to do with your partner and spouse, because what you're going to uncover is, once you know thyself and understand what's most important to you, your individual language, and then you can learn your partner's language, then you can create shared language together and understand how to better facilitate conversation. And like Jeff said, the bottom line of the triangle, create shared meaning, because you both have different meaning of money. So let me just share my screen here. And whoa, sorry. Okay. So the meaning of money, and Jeff and I joke, we call these the money love languages. So for any single one of us, and you'd be surprised, I do this, we have a workshop with our clients that's all about their values. And we do this with every single new client. And you wouldn't believe the stories that come up from someone's childhood based on something that happened that left them feeling, insecure about money and lacking security, and why that's one of their money love languages. So my recommendation for you and your partner would just be to list your top three and explain why those are important to you. Reflect on, from your childhood, why those are important to you. And then also a fun thing to do, I actually had a client do it yesterday. They guessed each other's love languages, and it was kind of like a fun, or a money love languages was a fun little exercise to do. And then another question that I would have you ask each other is, are we fully living into our money love languages? If not, what obstacles are we currently facing? So as you can see, there's many different ones on the screen here. I won't go super in depth with all of them. You can see them here now, but just think about you and what's most important to you. And I'll share like a little bit for me. Security and freedom are my top two. I grew up with both, but they were kind of taken away when I started this entrepreneur roller coaster with no salary at the age of 22. And so they're extremely important to me. And there's definitely been times over the last 8 years where these have been lacking for me. And I do think there might be a little bit of success underlying, like if you really dug deep down. I was a chubby kid, got picked on, things like that. So I think like making it still kind of drives and motivates me more than I probably currently realize. And I'm kind of, as every year goes by, when I look at this, I'm like, okay, maybe that success one does come into play. And I think as I grow a family and things like that, like survival and contribution are going to become more important for me. So some self-assessment questions to ask outside of going through the exercise. And don't worry, you'll get all of these for being here. Do I know which of my core human needs money fulfills and why? Do I know which of my partner's core human needs money fulfills and why? Am I fully able to live into my money love languages? If not, what's holding me back? Is it debt? Is it my mindset? Is it fear? Is it uncertainty? Is it scarcity mindset? Whatever it is. And how can I be better when discussing money with my spouse and partner now that I know and their money love languages? So I definitely recommend next time you and your partner sit down to talk about money, and Jeff will talk about that here in a second, how to do that. That would be a great starting exercise, just to understand why you each are the way you are about money. And don't do it at Valentine's dinner tonight. That would be my only recommendation. All right, Jeff, let me hand it over to you for step 3 about creating space.
It sounds great. And then can we pull that Gottman piece back up one more time?
Yeah.
I think just on that topic, I think it's a great time to just pause and look at this as in like a real world example. So again, one thing that we want to make sure that that we're reinforcing is that understanding and learning your partner's financial love language and creating shared meaning is not to encourage anybody to abandon your own unique financial love language, right? Like, so if spouse 1 is really into security and survival, and spouse 2 is into freedom and power, it doesn't mean you have to just abandon, like each of you have to abandon your own individual love language with money. It's just it's an opportunity for you to understand each other, and then use it just like the Gottmans who wrote the 5 love languages too. Like if your spouse if their primary love language is quality time and your primary love language is giving gifts, and all you do is give them gifts all the time, so you're speaking what comes to you, you're speaking your love language to them. It's not it doesn't land, it doesn't hit home, even though your effort is so strong and you're trying your best. if we're not trying to, in the same kind of respect here, it's just a great exercise to know that, hey, if my spouse really values security and just knowing that we're safe, that might be something as simple as making sure that you've got enough saved in the bank to know that if something happens, you're okay. So it's just one way to understand that you're able to show them love in a way that hits home for them. And of course, I just wanted to take a time out real quick, just so that we didn't get lost in saying that this is all about, creating as a couple your own shared love language and walking away from your individual ones. It's just a great exercise so that we can have a means to be able to like actually speak somebody else's language instead of always speaking our own. So
Hmm.
I think that's really valuable stuff. Okay, so the third step is now we kind of have these really cool tools. An equally important part of this whole process is just creating the space to use the tools. If we just kind of grab onto it and go when one person's ready and the other person's not, it sounds like a recipe for disaster, right? But we recommend creating designated time and place, schedule it in, and also by doing that, creating that space to have these types of conversations and to go through these exercises together as a couple, keep it there in that space. Don't clutter every other aspect of your life with this stuff. Schedule it in, you're gonna get it done. Just keep it out of everything else. Kind of like setting up family board meetings. You're just gonna put important topics into a designated time and place. Don't let it clutter your daily life. Keep it on the shelf unless it's an absolute emergency, right? So plan it. The other thing too that works with creating a space would be to plan those pockets of time on days and times where your cup, your metaphorical cup is already full. Talking about money is usually not a cup filling activity. For some people it is. Some people really love it and enjoy it. Some people it is absolutely the most dreaded thing to think about or lean into and have conversations on. So it really just requires energy, especially if we're trying to understand our spouse's unique experience as it relates to money, because we're not just seeing it just from our lens. If we're really intentionally trying to understand their experience, it's going to take energy. So do it when you have on days and times that work for you. Build a structure that's realistic for you in your family life. One thing to stay away from is definitely try your best not to overcommit and underdeliver. This can cause more pain and just cause, kind of just issues with communication as a whole. Just build the space, but also stay flexible. Consistency is important. If you have the carved out space and time, you don't want to just continue to kick the can down the road because then nothing ever gets addressed, but don't force it. As an example, if you have it scheduled for 5 p.m. on a Wednesday, and because that's generally a good day, you never really know what's going to happen on any given day. If your partner had a brutally exhausting day, reschedule it, fill your cup, make that the priority. Come back to it at a time where you have the energy for this type of conversation, because it does take energy, and that's important. So a good set of self-assessment questions. Do my partner and I regularly schedule time to talk about money and make key decisions? Not just in passing when we're crossing, like doing laundry in the hall and just randomly talking about it, or at 9 p.m. at night before you're going to bed, just reaction to something that happened in any given day. And then all of a sudden it's a full blown money conversation. And of course, we all know how that ends. No sleep for anybody. Our recommendation would be to just aim for, if it's realistic for your calendar, would be to aim for one just kind of micro-dosed huddle, money huddle per month. And then have larger quarterly huddles where you look at a little bit more big picture and make more 90-day decisions. Here's how we're going to function with our grocery spending habits. Here's how much we're going to spend on travel this quarter. And you just build all those different things in, make plans for all the fun stuff, make plans for all the little kind of just normal day-to-day stuff. so that you don't have to always just be wondering and floundering around. So that would be a great way to do it that we recommend. Another self-assessment question would be, do my partner and I have any created space where conversation is led by a professional third party to ask questions that we may not have thought of, or to help facilitate the conversation? Sometimes it's just nice to have a buffer. So whether that's a relationship counselor, financial advisor, friend, family member that you both have a ton of trust for, those are great. Sometimes just facilitators to have, make sure that there's someone kind of keeping the peace and keeping things moving along. If no, what can your partner and you do beginning today to make positive change in that direction? So just some good questions to consider around those lines, creating this space. So once you've created the space, we get into step 4, which is having ground rules for the space. And of course, I think every couple should probably, really, I guess, define what the ground rules need to be based on your own needs and preferences. But some that we recommend that are generally pretty helpful is we've just got 4 ground rules here. One of them is the good old acronym HALT. Avoid talking money when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Because those are it's just a recipe for disaster. If our cup is completely empty and talking about something that requires a lot of energy and a lot of just emotional and cognitive just kind of functioning, make sure your cup's full before you go into that type of setting. Ground rule number 2 is humility. Some people are really savvy with money. Some people are not so confident with money. And then there's people all in between. But everybody at that conversation needs to have a voice. It needs to be heard. It needs to be valued. And it's really important this is, again, for us, James and I, as advisors, it's really important for us to really seek to understand our spouses, our partner's unique experience, but seek to learn from your partner about their thoughts, their feelings, their input, and really don't rush to share your own. Just because you feel confident you know the answer does not mean it's going to be a productive outcome to that conversation. So what we found is that couples that work patiently through the process and really seek to understand the other person's perspective first, that is going to be more productive because both parties are going to feel more seen and known. Ground rule number 3, take turns. Do not interrupt each other. Some people, if you have to grab like a talking stick or something, literally like a physical, tangible object that says, you can only talk if you're holding this stick, then that might be a functional tool as well. But just be patient. If anything, really try to be curious, ask questions, and take turns being able to go through all of those steps of talking about what's on your mind, what's important, what's uncomfortable, what changes would you like to see brought into the way that you make decisions about money as a couple, and really just try to lower your defenses and try to seek to understand the other person's perspective. Take turns, no interruptions. Ground rule number 4, make team decisions. This is kind of hard sometimes. We have leaders in your own lane, and that's a fantastic quality. I think we all as couples have our strengths and weaknesses, and so we try to just kind of algorithmically as a couple move forward in a way that works best. But really, I think what couples that we see do this really well, they look for opportunities to meet each other. So if we think about 2 people, this is actually even a concept that my wife Michaela taught me when we're going through having conversations about sometimes difficult topics and making team decisions. It doesn't always have to be meeting in the middle, right? Sometimes it's me meeting her entirely on her end, or her meeting me entirely on mine, and then there's a huge gap in between where we can compromise after having conversations where we both feel that we're able to express ourselves and our needs and desires, and we're able to just look for it as an opportunity to meet. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be something that you agree with, right? Sometimes it's just an opportunity to show love and meet somebody where they are. Like, who is this most important to? Are we putting ourselves in a position where we're going to be unsafe if we go over here, sometimes it's worth going over there just to go over there, to show them how much you care. So I think it's great to just work on team decisions, while also just kind of identifying, hey, whose role is it to make this level of decision? How often are we making, big quarterly decisions as a couple about money? Just having clarity around all of the ways that we make decisions as a team is probably the most important part, because you can have really productive, heartfelt conversations where people are starting to feel safe and known. But as you're starting to make decisions, if one person grabs the wheel and doesn't let go, then nothing really happened productive, right? So the other thing too with decisions, don't don't carve it into stone, right? Give each other permission to bring decisions back to the table. Bring it back in future meetings with each other. Ask each other, hey, look, this is the decision we made 90 days ago. How did that work for you? Here's how it worked for me. How did it feel for you? Here's how it felt for me. Are we good with maintaining this trajectory, or should we change anything about that decision we made? Again, this might sound really like just out there and crazy, but it's really a nice process to just create space to have those targeted conversations about just family, big level decisions and small level decisions on a routine basis. So self-assessment questions. Do my partner and I have a set of ground rules for financial conversations? We should all ask ourselves that continually. What ground rules make the most sense for us as a couple, right? Not what makes the most sense for your best friends or your parents. What makes the most sense for the two of you, for all of us in our relationships? No conversations at the end of the workday when we're exhausted, right? Another good question to ask would be do we understand each other's personality styles? That maybe could be a masterclass in itself, right? Similar to financial love language or love languages as a whole, we all have unique personality styles. Some people are really big picture and all about action. Some people are very detailed and they need to move slowly and methodically. So even just looking at ways that you can enhance the conversation by knowing how your partner likes to be communicated with, especially on something as emotional as money. So understanding each other's personality styles would be a really great tool. Okay, and next I'll shift it back over to James for step 5.
Great stuff so far. Great stuff. Thank you all for listening up to this point. Appreciate it. So next is a fun one, and I have a funny story to tell as well. So be aware of the law of familiarity. So really interesting concept. I heard it from Darren Hardy, who's a New York Times bestselling author, very relevant in the self-help and business space. And basically the way that he defined it is we stop valuing things and people that are really close to us, that are readily available to us. And we value what's new and novel as humans. It's odd and it's weird. How many times have you said something to your partner or spouse or told them what to do and it just fell on deaf ears? For me, 10, 100 million times. So it doesn't matter how profound your advice is. You could be the best in your specialty as a physician in the world or best nutritionist on the planet, and they might not listen to your nutrition advice. And they no longer can even hear you, right? So do not be dismayed by this. It happens to all of us. And religion aside, but as an example, it even happened to Jesus. Even Jesus had to leave Nazareth before anyone would listen to him. He used to preach in his hometown, and people would be like, oh, wow, I've known Jesus since he's a kid. Yeah, he's crazy, whatever. And then he walked 14 miles away to the neighboring town of Capernaum, and he said the same crazy stuff. And those folks are like, oh, wow, he must be the Messiah. Let's listen to this guy. So if it happened to Jesus, right, I think we could all, in religion aside, we could all take a piece and learn from it. And one story for me personally, I grew up playing sports my whole life. I've been in the weight room since 8th grade. I played college football, etc. And about 3 years ago, I tried training my partner, Steph, at the gym. And it wasn't 27 or 28 days after like, me correcting her form 10 million times and telling her what to do, before she thought it would, or wished it could have been like a kickboxing class. And my head was a kickboxing bag, basically. So what we did, and because I was familiar with the law of familiarity, we looked over and we said, hey, those people are in class over there, a small group. It looks like they're having a really great time. Let's go do that. And then I'll have the trainer tell you what to do versus me telling you what to do. We go to the gym almost every morning at 6 a.m., laughing, having the time of our lives. I don't have to tell Steph anything. I don't have to correct her form. It's the responsibility of the trainer. So sometimes you need to find what we say, like the out of town expert, to say the same exact thing you've been saying a million times, but it's heard differently because it's new and novel. So another way to kind of do this in conjunction is using the term let's, instead of saying like, you should do that, you should go do that, you're trying to lose weight, you should do keto, you should do carnivore diet, you should do the Atkins diet, whatever. It's hey, let's do this together, babe, let's do this together. And then from there, if they aren't open to it, like, simply just lead by example. We see this a lot, like sometimes with clients, like couples might not be on the same page, and we typically would just say, do your best to genuinely understand the other person's situation. And sometimes you just need to go lead by example. And if you're beginning to make positive change, like if you're seeing results with money or you're losing weight, they might just want to taste of the Kool-Aid, and you didn't even say anything. You just kind of went out and did your thing. So our most successful client couples, both couples have 2 feet in the door. They have the knowledge and education of what decisions to make financially, which we help bring to the table. And then, like Jeff said, they have that creation of time and space. So truly, in understanding the law of familiarity, sometimes it's just finding that out of town expert to tell them the same thing you've been telling them for years. So that's really it. And they can facilitate the conversations. So for money conversations, once again, Jeff and I can do that for you. For better communication in your marriage, maybe it's relationship counseling or therapy. For better health and fitness, maybe it's a strength coach or a nutritionist or whatever it might be. Once again, Google that wheel of life and find out which area as a couple you're lacking in, and how can you find an out-of-town expert or a professional to help you with that. Just like if I tore my ACL, I'm not going to YouTube how to like repair it. I'd go talk to an orthopedic surgeon, right? So similar type of thing. I feel like a lot of us get in our own way and aren't open to coaching, when really coaching, like if Kobe Bryant, MJ, and Beyonce, like Beyonce has a vocal coach, all surround themselves with a capable team to complete the mission, then why not all of us as ordinary humans? I think we're pretty great, but I guess I don't have a voice like Beyonce. So some self-assessment questions. Where in my life have I been telling my spouse or partner what to do and find myself frustrated because they don't take action and they stop listening? And what area of our life do we need the most help in right now? Whether it's money, finances, nutrition, whatever. And what out-of-town expert professional can we hire and help and delegate the task to help complete our mission? So moving on to step 6 here. And I think you guys will really enjoy this, because a lot of what we've talked about so far has been a little bit like, concepts, theory, actual things you can do. But here are some actual exercises for you to complete. And for registering, you got an email in there, and there's a PDF called the Financial 101 Playbook. If you don't do anything, just go through that thing from top to bottom with your spouse and partner, and it would facilitate some fantastic conversations. So I'll just give you a brief overview of actual exercises to complete together as a couple. So first and foremost is understanding your financial vital signs. So once again, this is all about your current, like a snapshot in time of your current financial situation. So all about money in, money out, cash reserves, risk management, what happens if something that goes wrong. And when talking about vitals, everyone, most importantly, should be heard and validated, and you need to make a team decision on what's most important to you. So an example of some financial vitals are just, free cash flow, right? How much money do we have in surplus every month? How much money do we have coming in? How much money do we have going out? So full cash flow awareness. There's a great app out there called Rocket Money that will help you do that. You can pay $8 a month to get that answer today. Building a family budget in addition to that, and thinking about how you want to live your life today. So no one should have to sacrifice their individual hobbies, right? How many times you've heard the story of like one partner's golfing too much and it's pissing off the other partner shopping too much and it's pissing off, and like they can't find a happy medium. So everybody should be able to enjoy their individual hobbies, passions, and priorities. And if you build a budget of what you want your life to look like that accounts for all of it, then it's well taken care of. There's a free resource called the circulatory cash flow system that we sent you. It's in there as well for you. Cash reserves. So we aren't huge on rules of thumb, but if you looked at the Rocket Money app and it said you spent 100 grand last year, you should probably have anywhere from 50 to 100 grand in cash reserves at all times, 6 to 12 months of annual expenses. Next is just having a financial plan that's encompassing all your goals and needs that also gives you the ability to enjoy life in the present. So understanding risk management strategies, retirement plans, employer benefit plans, estate planning, retirement debt. Like you collectively as a unit should be able to know all of this information or have this information documented in some place so then you can be on the same page. And once again, that PDF, the Financial Wellness 101, will help you, the two of you, do that to get really organized. Next, after vitals, is understanding your household values. So you each have individual values, but then we encourage all of our clients to build core values together. And the reason we do this is one of my favorite quotes from Roy Disney. It's not difficult to make decisions when you know what your values are. So the financially or mathematically correct decision might not be the decision that you always choose. Sometimes you got to trust your gut and you got to lean on your values and making great decisions from there. Like for instance, if there was an opportunity, one of Jeff and I's business core values is impact. If there was an opportunity for us to sell I Am Wealth today and open up a fast food franchise that was going to make us 10 million in profit next year, it'd be a pretty easy decision for Jeff and I, because bringing more cheeseburgers and diabetes, now that I don't enjoy cheeseburgers, to the world doesn't align with the impact that we want to make. So understand your values. Next is understanding your vision. So you each are going to have your individual goals and things that you want in life. And you're going to come together and you're also going to have collective goals as well together as a team, and make sure that they're SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive, because a dream is just a goal with no deadline. So you have to put deadlines on them, you have to put dollar amounts on them, and you have to be on the same page and understanding that you each have your individual goals and then you have joint goals collectively as a team. After you've defined your vision, you move on to methods to accomplishing the goals, right? And that's basically just financial planning, like building a financial plan. If we want to buy a dream house in 10 years on Lake Michigan and it's going to cost $2 million, what do we have to start saving today? And where do we put that money to get there? Those types of conversations. So what are the methods to bring your goals in the present life and future life into fruition? And that's financial planning. We definitely can step in and help you with that if you'd like. If you're a DIY, by all means, do it. Identifying obstacles, basically in-flight adjustments. So, keeping up with the world and the economy, inflation rates, interest rates, et cetera, what's going on in the market. And we'd recommend, at least making quarterly adjustments based on obstacles. With most of our clients, we do it monthly. And then last is measurement. Like, how do you as a couple measure and define success? And I think this is where we really screw things up in America, and especially financial advisors. We measure our successes by keeping up with the Joneses, our next Instagram post, comparing our life to an index fund like an S&P 500. Like if the S&P does bad, then our self-worth is depleted. Your success should be measured based on your ability to hit your goals and live your life in alignment with your values, utilizing your financial vital signs. Period. The end. Full stop. So how do you measure your success? Of course, we're all here to make more money, right? But how do you measure your success and not base your self-worth on the Dow Jones? So some self-assessment questions to think of is, do we have clarity on our financial vital signs? Meaning we both could say exactly what our vitals are: our monthly surplus, our employee benefits, our monthly savings towards our goals, our monthly income, our cash reserves, defensive strategies, employee benefits, et cetera. And then have we created core values as a family that we can lean on to help us make decisions? And lastly, do we have a shared vision that incorporates our goals as a couple and our unique individual goals collectively as a team in one space, in writing, that are SMART goals? So that is step 6, getting a little bit more into the meat of it. And Jeff, for the final step, I will pass the baton back to you, all about taking action as a team.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, we're kind of landing the plane here, almost on the hour. So step 7, it's really pretty simple. It's all just about taking action. So one thing that I would challenge everybody, including ourselves right now, would be that money being hard, money being difficult is not an excuse for us to neglect our partners financially. So money doesn't need to be a wedge in our relationships. It can be a bridge. It can be something that we use as a tool when we create this kind of space to draw closer as a couple. It's hard. It just requires humility, which of course is also hard for all of us. So the last thing that I would just say is let's all commit to do this. Let's create the space. Let's create the ground rules and follow the ground rules. And then let's do the work consistently. We'll send all the tools to you. You already have some. We'll send them again. And let's all take action together for being teammates in our relationships with money. James, I know you might have some closing remarks, but again, I just want to say thank you. And of course, again, happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
I'd say thank you and happy Valentine's Day. That was absolutely, fantastic. And we have had couples who have gone through that free financial wellness diagnostic with us, solely who filled out the PDF, which you have right now in your email inbox, say, holy crap, that's the most, we've talked about money in the last 5 years, and I have the most clarity and organization I felt in 5 years just from going through a PDF for 30 to 60 minutes. So I definitely encourage you at the very least to go through that financial wellness 101 playbook. And then also to, feel free to take full advantage of that financial wellness diagnostic with us, just to give you a professional assessment going forward. And thank you all for being here. Happy Valentine's Day. And real quick, let's pause. Any questions out there? Looks like we have Christopher and Denise still on here. So thank you for making it and sticking it out through the whole thing here today.
No questions. I just want to say thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Denise, anything on your mind? And no worries if not. All right. Well,
sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. No question. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Well, yeah, thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful Valentine's Day. Like I said, schedule, or like we talked about, schedule the time and space to talk about money. Maybe don't bring it up at Valentine's dinner tonight, right? Because you don't want that hand grenade to blow up in the middle of the table.
Yeah.
But you can say hey, I attended an awesome thing today. I'll fill you in later. But yeah, thank you so much. And for all others listening via YouTube at some point in the future, thank you for your time, as I know it's the most valuable and precious thing that you have. And Jeff, nice work today, my friend. And
you too, buddy.
We will talk to you all soon.
All right. Journey on.
Journey on.
I Am Wealth does not offer individual financial advice outside of a formal consulting agreement. Content discussed in the I Am Masterclass is not and does not represent financial advice, tax advice, and or legal advice. The intent of the I Am Masterclass is to provide extremely valuable financial educational content for free. For personal questions, we hope that you'll visit iamwealth.com and schedule what we call a free financial wellness diagnostic to assess the current state of your financial health and therefore help you and your family take control of their money so they can live a more meaningful life. So we'll see you there. I Am Wealth does not